All right, everyone. Church greeters. Hopefully you have them. Hopefully they're friendly. And we're going to talk about why a lot of churches struggle with this particular ministry. I honestly believe that hospitality is the most undervalued of all church ministries. I think that there's also the most potential in hospitality ministries. I think greeters have gotten a bad rap in the with church experts talking about all they do is hand out the bulletins in a really grumpy way. I think I think there's a lot of value with having greeters at doors, particularly from a security perspective. So
Mhm.
there's a lot here, a lot that's underutilized, and we're going to talk about that today, and particularly 6 reasons why most church greeter ministries struggle. But before we do, I want to thank our sponsor, California Baptist University. Beautiful campus, amazing faculty. Why should you be interested? Well, it's a great place to go to school, and you're going to learn under some of the best. They do have financial aid available, thanks to some CBU donors, particularly with this new online bachelor's degree in Christian ministry. So if you're like, hey, I just can't move to California, guess what? You can bring the institution to you. They do this particular program very, very well. So we want to thank Cal Baptist for all that they're doing to sponsor the show and also to provide good, solid Christian education. So you can reach out to them at calbaptist.edu. Highly recommend the institution, whether you go on site or online. They've got a program for you. So calbaptist.edu. Thank you, California Baptist, for sponsoring today's episode. All right, Dad, take us into this. You got these greeters. We have greeters at most doors.
Mhm.
I think our greeters do a really good job. They are there for hospitality. They are there for security, and people flow a little bit as well, but mainly hospitality and security. Uh, why? But why are these greeters ministries end up being the running joke in a lot of with a lot of conference speakers and content that's out there? Shouldn't we be praising them a little more?
Well, the cliche joke, of course, is as you started talking, was those who hand out bulletins and just say welcome, welcome, welcome. Well, that's the forerunner, really, to the modern today greeter ministry. Uh, Greeter ministry, Sam, when I was a pastor, were not organized, were not thought to be a major part of the ministry of the church until we started finding out how important it was to the people coming in, the way we treated them, the way they could find signage, the way they'd know which door to go to, and then the people with whom they had conversation, which would be the greeters. And so the comments, the snarky comments, really are the forerunner to the modern greeter ministry today. Unfortunately, there are still some churches that have not emerged from the forerunner, and so that's why that still goes on. But a greeter ministry, in its best sense, is something that is going to help the church so much. I don't know where this data comes from that within 6 seconds opinion has already been formed. I don't know how they know what somebody's thinking within 6 seconds, but I will say this. We do know that first impressions are important. And we know that first impressions when you drive up a parking lot are important. We know that first impressions when you get out of the car are important. We know that first impressions are important when you head toward the worship center, sanctuary, and you head toward that door. We know first impressions are important once you get into the building. And I could go on and on and on there. But those are the points that I may be a little bit melodramatic in saying this, but I'll go in and say it. Those are the points that will potentially make an eternal difference in someone's life.
Oh,
So,
I completely agree. Um, we've all been there, and if you really think about the first time that you drove anywhere, drove up to some shopping mall or a church
Bucky's,
campus, yeah,
Bucky's.
or a restaurant or whatever it is, if you had a frustrating experience arriving that carries into your perception of whatever you're going into, specifically the church, the first person that someone sees is going to make a first impression. And almost always that's either somebody as in the parking lot ministry, or somebody at a door helping someone get in. So this first impression ministry, I kind of view greeter ministry as a subset of first impression ministries,
True.
really sets the tone for all of your guests. So one way that churches fail with this particular ministry is just failing to understand the importance. Like this is setting the tone for someone's experience at your church long before they hear the sermon. They
Hmm.
have already made up some conclusions in their mind. Yeah, there's a lot of science. Is it 6 seconds or 6 minutes? Who knows? I mean, but regardless, before somebody hears the sermon from the lead pastor, they have already made many conclusions about the church.
By the way, I did check into that a few years ago, and I don't remember how many seconds it was, but I was just curious where the study came from. And so I started at one place and it led me to another, it led me to another, and then I discovered I was back where I started. So it was circular. And I could not find a source. Everybody was quoting each other, but there was no source to it. But it may be a study out there somewhere.
Well, as we all know, 45% of all statistics are made up on the spot.
I thought it was 48. Oh
It
well.
may actually be 52 depending on the study.
Oh yeah, that's that inverse study. I forgot about that.
Regardless, whether you are putting science behind this or not, I think we all know empirically and just from experientially that this is something that we've all done. We've all made up our minds about something before we even experienced it. And it's important for your church to have that good first impression. And part of having a good first impression is understanding the importance of greeter ministries.
And like any ministry, you need to have someone who's the leader of it. We often call them the champion. The job description of this champion comes in two broad categories. That person needs to be friendly, first of all. You can't be a champion of a greeter ministry if you're a curmudgeon. And that person needs to have a bit of organizational savvy. Sometimes that's hard to find in churches, but you can. And when I go to our church in Bradenton, Sam, I don't know who is in charge, but there is a consistency to the friendliness, whichever door I come in. And sometimes I go to the front door that's not the front door, and sometimes I go into the side door that is the front door. And wherever I go, I still get the consistency of the greeting. Now, I will say this: for the most part, your females are just a little bit friendlier than your males, but that may be a sexist statement that is true.
Yeah, I think it is a sexist statement. That's true. I think that's the case for a lot of churches. I certainly don't want to put that generalization on everyone, but I think it's a fair generalization. Layla is our champion. She does a phenomenal job. And I'm very grateful to have her leading our First Impressions ministry. So, six reasons why. The first one is the church just fails to understand the importance of it, which is a lot of churches. Second reason is the ministry doesn't have a clear champion. Let's move to this third reason. The church does not provide ongoing training for greeters. We do quarterly training. All of our
That's
greeters
great.
get quarterly training. So we give them that opportunity to gain a better grasp of how they can do their ministry in a way that better glorifies God.
Well, I did not know that about quarterly training. And I hear of very few churches that do quarterly training. Some have annual updates, some have maybe semi-annual. Quarterly is outstanding and speaks to what's going on there. But it also reminds those who are participating in it and those who are hearing about the quarterly training, wow, the church really thinks this is important, and it puts a lot into it.
You know whose stuff we use?
No.
Danny Franks.
Danny Frank is so good. Oh, he's going to be joining our team in 2025. Not leaving Summit, want to make that clear, but he's going to help us out in the whole area of first impressions, greeting, greeter ministry, and the whole thing of hospitality. And I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, we use a lot of Danny Franks stuff. If you're not familiar with him, you should be able to Google him. But let's just see. Is it DannyFranks.com? If it's not, I'm going to feel like an idiot.
It's there.
It's not. That's not the right address. Don't go there. That's not the right one.
It's dfranks.com.
DFranks. Go to because DannyFranks.com takes you to rumpshaken.com. It's actually a recording studio, so it's nothing too highly inappropriate.
Poor
We should
Danny.
talk to Dan. We should totally talk to
You
Danny
know
about
he
that.
knows that. You know he
I'm
knows
sure
that.
he does. Be like, so what are you doing running, rump shaking records? He's
And
some
I
D.
Googled it and I got in memoriam Danny Franks. Oh my goodness. Poor
So let's
Danny.
get this right. So it's dfranks.com.
D Franks, letter D.com. D Franks, letter D, FRANKS.com. He's going to be joining
Okay.
Church Answers to help us in the area of hospitality.
And now that everyone is confused, I'm actually like crying in laughter because I thought I had that correct, and it's
Everybody that listens or watches this is going to go to DannyFranks.com.
dfranks.com,
Franks.com.
not dannyfranks.com. Oh, that's good stuff. That's good stuff.
Sam,
Total
Sam,
failure. Total.
Sam, what?
And you're wondering, like, do you edit these podcasts? Clearly,
No.
clearly, we do not. We've never edited these things. They are all one take.
Unless we're coughing or something like that.
On
Unless
a rare occasion, yes, there may be a little edit there, but we
yesterday
don't.
I heard a lot of static and I said, do y'all hear static? Right in the middle of the podcast. So
All right,
we
fourth
edited
fourth
things.
reason. Fourth reason. Moving on. Why churches tend to struggle with greeter ministry is the pastor does not articulate the importance. And if something's of minimal importance to the pastor, it'll inevitably be of minimal importance to the church. You can still do greeter ministry without the support of the pastor, obviously. But hey, if you're a pastor, you should understand that this is critically important. How people are greeted as they walk in and how secure people feel as they walk in are absolutely some of the most important parts of the first impression that people can have of your church.
Which brings up a adjunct topic, and I'm just going to bring it here. The new resource about safety in your churches is well beyond greater ministry, but the new resource and the book that you wrote, Sam, tell us about both of the new resource because we are releasing this particular podcast in mid-November, so it will already be out, and we can talk about both the resource and the book.
Yeah, and this is something that I do address in both the resource and the book. The book is comprehensive in nature, so it's not just about greeter ministry, it's about the whole of the church. But it's called Make My Church Safe. The book is called Make My Church Safe, and no one had written a comprehensive book on church safety.
Just
There's
some
some
aspects of it.
there's some really good stuff out there on like active shooters and some good stuff on like policies for children. And there's some good stuff out there on first impressions, but no one had taken this idea of church safety and written a comprehensive book on how does the church do this well as a whole. So I felt like it was a needed book. It was
So
something
did
that
so did Tyndale. They
yeah,
jumped at it.
they were very excited about it, and I'm very grateful that they are publishing the book. But yeah, it's called Make My Church Safe, and the resource that we have at Church Answers is called Safe Church Training. So
Incredible resource.
you can go to
Incredible resource.
makemychurchsafe.com, and you'll find everything that you need there.
Well, I thought the timing was right. I don't think we planned that out, but the timing was really good. So if the pastor's not articulating the importance, then the fact of the matter is it's probably not going to be important in the church. And if pastor does not see the importance of this, what that is basically saying is it doesn't recognize both the front door and the back door. It's not just a come into the door, it's an assimilation importance too, because what happens on that first visit determines whether or not there will be a second visit or more after that. So it's an assimilation tool as well. Let the pastor know that it is very, very important. So, Sam, recruiting is another thing that happens in churches that doesn't happen in churches that have struggling greater ministries. And so this is typical for any type of ministry, but this one needs a constant flow of people as well.
It does, and I love the way Layla does it. So she prints lanyards ahead of time, and gives somebody a really nice looking lanyard. She goes up to them and selects them, knowing that they're extroverted, love to host people, or they're willing to be part of security. There's certain people she's looking for in our church that fit the mold of greeter, and she will already have everything ready for them, and she will go put that lanyard on top of their neck and say, "I
Brilliant.
would, I would really, I need you in the greeter ministry. It's great to have you." And she has yet to have Of all the people she's done that to, she has yet to have anybody turn her down. You
I
put that
wouldn't.
lanyard around their neck, and they're pretty much obligated to serve.
I love that. I love that process. Uh,
And I guess the point there, you may say, well, that's a bit bold. It is. But my point is, you don't get unless you ask. And if you want people serving in ministry, you can't just do an all call. Hey, we need an extra greeter at door
that's
4.
terrible. That's a
Yeah,
terrible way to
no one's
recruit.
going to sign up for that. But if you go to somebody and you say, you know what? I think you're going to be really good at this. We need you. We need you here every week. You're going to be a valuable part of our team. And, I'm selecting you personally. And I really want you to do this. You're going to get some no's, of course, from time to time. But a lot of people are going to go, wow, okay, well, I'm in. If you really think that highly of me, then I'd love to do it.
Yeah.
And it's all about how you approach people. So recruitment requires confidence, recruitment requires boldness, and recruitment requires you to really champion that person and say, I've identified a gifting in you, and I think you should do this. Now, you don't force anyone or guilt them into anything, of course. Guilt's a terrible motivator, works for about a week or two. But when somebody feels valued, like you've
Hmm.
hand selected them, which you have, that's a good way to recruit somebody.
I mentioned on the Church Answers podcast recently with your brother Jess that it is becoming increasingly common to make the greeter ministry part of the new members class. And simply said, what do you want in a new members class? You want information communicated, you want expectations clearly stated, and ideally, you want the assimilation process to begin. So more and more churches are saying, hey, the membership process will be complete when you serve 1 month. That's what I hear more often than not in the greater ministry. Some will stick, some will say, I'm glad I'm done, but they're going to be exposed to the church in a way that you could not do anything as powerful as standing out and saying hello to people. So that's becoming increasingly common as well. But I don't mean by a great plurality, much less a majority, but there are a number of churches doing it now. Maybe one of the
Yeah.
reasons is I saw it at a couple of churches and some others have already picked it up.
It's an excellent idea. Now, this last one is one that may not be as intuitive. So, walk us through secret guest ministry. So, churches struggle because they've never utilized a secret guest um, visitor. So,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure a lot of our listeners are kind of familiar with that concept, but walk us through one, what it is and where can they find somebody to do this?
Secret guest ministry means that someone is coming into your church who's never been to your church, and they're given instructions on what to note. We recommend to them that they don't have a pad and write down things, or if they have a survey where they're going to check it off, do it after they leave the church. Don't do it right then. But they come into a church and they make observations. One of the greater success stories I had as a pastor was I had a secret guest ministry going twice a year. Every 6 months, there would be somebody who was not a church member, usually a lost person. And then every 6 months, we would ask someone from another church who had never been to our church to go there. So we had got it from the transfer growth eyes and the potential conversion growth eyes. And they come in, and it's very simple. They tell you what they saw. And you have a checklist for them, or you have a few things where they can note it and they turn it into you. How do you find them? Well, the easy one usually is the transfer. Hey, can you find someone that you work with, someone you know that goes to another church, asking a church member? And can you get them to do this? And that's usually really easy. But the unchurched person is usually pretty easy too. Hey, you got a coworker at church that would be okay getting $100 gift card or something like that to come to our church for just to tell us how we're doing. And okay, if you're doing $100 and you do it twice a year, that's $200. It opens your eyes to what the guests are seeing, which makes your greater ministry much more fruitful and effective because now you know what outsider eyes really look like. And I would add this to the whole hospitality ministry and specifically the greater ministry.
Good stuff. We also do secret guest ministry as part of our consultations. That's
Yes.
one component. So if you are interested in a consultation, whether it be a comprehensive consultation of your church or just a first impressions consultation, we can do that too. So, you know what? Just reach out to me, Sam at churchanswers.com.
There
We'd
you
we'd love to help your church. We've been inundated with consultation requests, and I mean that in a good way. Like, we've got some really good projects that we're working on. I'm very excited about. So if you would like some help from a consulting perspective, please let us know, and you can just
let me
email.
say this, Sam. We've got some consultation opportunities that we have not seen of this nature in the past. I mean, I'm thinking of one that you are just corresponding with right now. And I would have never thought that, not that this church thinks it's beyond a consultation, but it doesn't fit the profile of the typical churches we consult. We're just getting a lot of them. Some of them churches are sick, some of them are not, and they want to find out how to do specific things better. But that ministry is really growing more than we ever thought it would.
It is. And we want to help you grow your church. And one way that that can happen is with Upward, longtime sponsor of Church Answers. Upward can build that bridge into your community. They are the world's largest Christian youth sports organization, so they have the ability to help you, but they are also flexible enough to offer a program that works specifically for you. You don't necessarily need a gym. Gyms are helpful and good, but you don't necessarily need a gym to do any of their programs. And they offer a wide selection of sports. So I would encourage you to go check them out at upward.org/church answers. Again, upward.org/church answers. Whatever kind of space you have, they will take that creatively and help you create a program via sports to make sure that your people are interacting with the people of the neighborhood in a very fun and non-controversial environment. This is like the most non-controversial way to do
Yes, it is.
outreach.
It certainly is.
Everyone loves sports, and this is just so, I don't want to say easy, because you're gonna have to work for this, but they make the process to where it's actually beneficial for your church and advantageous. Give reach out to them.
And
Upward.org slash
there's a
church answers.
there's a funny story with this. Our director of external relations is a guy by the name of Matt McCraw. Matt does a lot of things for us, but that's one of the hats that he wears. And when we started talking to Upward, so way back when, I don't know, the director of marketing for Upward introduced herself, and she has the identical name as Matt's wife. And it's not a common name. It's Jennifer, but then it's McCraw, not McGraw, McCraw, CRAW. And so he's had to change his phone to just one of them just says wife, because the you don't want to answer to the director of marketing at Upward. Hey, honey, no, not that one.
And I'm sure Jennifer is cringing at us talking about her, but Jennifer McCraw at Upward is one of the most brilliant ministry minds that I have ever encountered. And that is the organization that is Upward. They have some amazing people. So reach out to them. I know they can help your church. Upward.org/church answers. And all of you, we do appreciate you tuning in every week. As a reminder, we're going to be having more content coming up next year. We've got some big changes for our content in January. Stay tuned for that. Nothing will change here. So if you're wondering, what's going to happen, it's only going to be more of the content that you like. So we've got some really big announcements that are coming, very exciting stuff in terms of the kinds of content that we're producing, the amount of content that we're producing. So keep listening to Rainer on Leadership, because there's more of it coming, and we hope to be able to do more for you and your churches. As always, we want to thank you for listening, and we will see you next week on the next episode.